Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new edition of Dr. Nutrition. Today we're going to talk about one of the most misunderstood mineral that we have in the diet in all of animal nutrition. It's calcium. So what is the holistic understanding that we have so far for calcium? Number one, calcium is not a cheap mineral. So it might be cheap in the cost of the sources of calcium, but the cost of having high calcium in your formulation is going to be huge. First, where do we get calcium from? So if you ask anyone this question, anyone in the formulation, nutrition, or veterinarian, they will always tell you, we get it from limestone, we get it from calcium carbonate. And actually that's not entirely true, because every item in your formulation, almost every item in your formulation, it will have calcium inside of it. So whether it's grain, whether it's like corn, soybean, all of them still have some quantity of calcium. It's true, it could be small, but what I mean is still calcium, there is calcium there. Let alone this, you have also all of the feed additive that you add to your formulation, whether it's poultry or a ruminant or whatever, animal, horses, any animal, you're adding feed additive. More than 90% was a research that was done about 6 years ago, if I remember correctly, that more than 90% of all feed additive were using calcium carbonate or like some sort of calcium carbonate, calcium source as a carrier for them. And this is a very small particle calcium, so that means their digestibility will be higher. So the first thing is the sources. Second thing is related to digestibility of calcium. The lower particle size calcium, so the more fine powder of calcium sources, the higher solubility of that calcium will be. And here is always a dilemma. Do animals need more highly soluble sources of calcium or less soluble sources of calcium? Are you ready? The answer to this question is, it depends. So basically, it depends on the type of animal that you're using, depending on the physiological status of the animal, and many other factors as well. But let's take an example. So if we took an example, broilers, okay? So what do broilers need? They need sources of calcium that is highly soluble or low solubility or what? So basically for broilers, you need the calcium to be moderately soluble. So when the bird is younger, the digestibility or the absorption of calcium until 21 days is lower. Okay, after 21 days, it starts like it goes from very low to have like a standard curve. After 21 days, it's like a plateau, stays like this. Plateau roughly around 50%. So that means what? 50% of all the calcium that I'm giving to the animal is actually soluble and digestible. Okay, so you don't solve the problem of rickets by adding more calcium. There is enough calcium already in the diet that we are doing. The problem is that calcium is very cheap. People tend to overdose calcium and think that this is okay. So what are the problems associated with higher inclusion rate of calcium? Number one, when I have high calcium ions inside of the intestine that is not absorbed, we call it free calcium ions. That may be coming from highly soluble sources of calcium, or maybe it is coming from overdosing. Most probably it will be coming from overdosing of calcium. What this will do? Number one, this calcium will interfere with the absorption of most of the other minerals, like for example phosphorus, magnesium, iron, zinc. So many of those minerals will be affected by the free unabsorbed quantities of calcium in the intestine. Number two, the calcium will tend to chelate with the phytate. So it will inhibit the action or the activity of phytase. And this is very important for monogastrics like poultry, for example, and horses as well. So you're adding phytase in order to increase the absorption and digestibility and improving the degradability of phytate. But calcium interfere with this. The free calcium ions in the intestine interfere with this. That's number two. Number three, the calcium will also do something called saponification. So it will bind to the free fatty acids and reduce the fat digestibility, which takes the calcium, the soap, basically how the soap is made. So the same way soap needs alkaline media, oil base, and calcium carbonate or a source of calcium. That's how the soap is made. So same mechanism happen in the duodenum and the jejunum of the animal as well. It's alkaline media, there is free calcium ions that are not absorbed yet, and there is oils, fat. So what happens is that there is like this mechanism what's called saponification. Why is dangerous? This is dangerous because this will reduce the digestibility of those kind of or those fats or those oils. That's number one. Number two, it will take those fats and oils, the undigested one, and going toward the distal part of the small intestine and the larger intestine. So it will go down into the GIT, which, what does this mean? It will increase the problem of pathogenic microorganisms, especially something like Salmonella and Clostridia. So now we realize that adding more calcium will reduce the mineral, will impact on the fat digestibility, and will impact on the phytate digestibility or degradability. See why it's dangerous to add more free calcium ions inside of the intestine? I would say number four, that calcium can also reduce the amino acid digestibility. So that's why I say many people, not just me, many people are many researchers are started to say we have to work in a different tool other than the total calcium. And now there is terminologies that called digestible calcium, and there is terminologies that called retainable calcium. And I like always to work with those terminologies and work with those digestible calcium levels rather than the total calcium level, because total calcium does not give me any indication about the animal performance afterwards. So I just wanted to highlight this part, that we need to always take care not to overdose calcium, and always care about the calcium solubility and check the calcium solubility that we have in our diets. Thank you so much for the question, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time as well. Thank you.